Hello everyone, I'm Marie Charlotte Arino from Section A, and today I'm going to be discussing the part 4 of our presentation, which is the relevance of avoiding confusing language. In this part, I will be discussing three closely related principles that help make our communication clear and effective. The first one that I have here is using specific, concrete language, to be followed by avoid jargons or too many technical terms, and then the principle be careful when using idioms. So let's begin with the use of specific concrete language. So when we say concrete, what does that mean? Concrete is a language that refers to words or phrases that are tangible, sensory, and real. These are the things that we can see, touch, count, and perceive. In my presentation, I crossed out the terms vague and abstract. According to Lumen, abstract refers to ideas, qualities, or concepts that can be vague, such as love, freedom, value, and growth. Using concrete terms helps people visualize and understand what we're trying to convey. If you want to convey a clear and straight to the point message, this is where being concrete becomes relevant. On the same note, we also need to be specific. This requires us to be precise and detailed rather than generalize. So for example, instead of saying many, we say exactly 50. Or instead of saying sometime soon, we can exactly say by Friday at noon. Or in some cases, instead of saying food, we can directly say fried chicken or sinigang, like that. So in this slide, take a look at the difference between the vague and the precise. So the first sentence that I have here is, to clear his head, he took a long vacation somewhere in Luzon. So when we read that, it is quite confusing, right? How long? Where in Luzon? So we have these questions in mind. Wherein if we become precise, this is the sentence. This is how the sentence looks like. To clear his head, he took a 6-month vacation in Los Baños, Laguna. Now, next example, she failed to attend the meeting because she was indisposed rather. So what is that meeting? What exactly is she trying to pertain when it was said indisposed? So being precise is how it states. She could not attend the investors meeting because she had a fever, right? So as a listener and a reader, I bet we would all be agree that being precise is more understandable and preferable. So why does this principle matter? It reduces ambiguity, right? Listeners and readers are less likely to misinterpret what you are trying to say. So the second one is it helps with engagement. People can picture what you're saying. So the third one, it is more memorable. Research shows that concrete language is easier to remember. Now moving forward to my next principle I have here is the avoid jargon or too many technical terms. So what does it mean? Is this lingo, unfamiliar words? What are we talking about here? Jargon is a specialized language used by particular group or profession that outsiders may not understand. While technical terms are similar, they're precise with domain, but may be confusing or inaccessible to non-experts. So here are the examples of sentences that contain jargon or technical terms. The first one that I have here is the new transparent wall maintenance engineer did a good job today. So what does the transparent wall maintenance engineer mean? So instead of stating that way, we can say the new window cleaner did a good job today. Another example is the management does not have the bandwidth to deal with the volume of new requests. Instead of saying bandwidth, we can say capacity. So when we use capacity, it's the management does not have the capacity to deal with the volume of new requests. In that way, we can easily understand what the sentence is trying to say. So at this point, why do you think we have to avoid or limit them? First is because they raise a cognitive load for a listener or a reader. It's just it it has to be decoded to be understood. As simple as that. The second one is they can alienate people who are not part of your domain. And then the third one, they can make you seem less accessible or less trustworthy because they cannot understand what you are trying to say. Now, when do we say that using jargon or technical terms may be okay? So, some considerations include that if you know your audience is familiar with technical terms, that is okay. The second one is if you were able to define the terms at the outset, and then if the precision outweighs the risk of your confusion. Again, we are not saying that utilizing technical terms is not recommendable. It's just in case it is in case to case basis. We just have to put in mind um what our readers or listeners will be able to understand. Now I have cited some strategies relative to this principle. First is always consider your audience, as I've said. Always consider your audience, tailor your word choice. Second is use simpler synonyms where possible. Third is if a technical term is unavoidable, sorry, define it clearly the first time. And then the fourth, avoid piling up technical terms back to back, space them out, give out context. Now at this juncture, let me proceed to our next principle, which is be careful when using idioms. So break a leg, what leg? Right? Finally, idioms. I have saying here that says that break a leg. So although this is widely known as the idiom for good luck, some people may not still get it. So what do we say? What do we mean when we say idioms? There are these are the phrases whose meaning is not directly deducible from individual words. So why do we think this is risky, especially in development communication? First is we have to consider the cultural and linguistic diversity. If someone is not a native speaker of your language or from different cultural background, idioms may be confusing or interpreted literally. Next is idioms sometimes have multiple colloquial meanings or may have changed usage. And then lastly, in formal writing or technical context, idioms may reduce clarity or come across as too casual. Aside from the from phrases, there are also expressions that are commonly misused. Here are the examples. So the first one that I have here is the conversant in, wherein the correct usage should be conversant with. Compared to, it should mean to stress similarities, while compare with, it should mean to stress differences. Ravage, it means destroy, and then ravish means rape. In writing print, it is we all know that it is significant how we properly utilize the words that we want our readers to read. So now that I have discussed these three additional principles, let me leave you these questions. The first question that I have here is the why is audience analysis important when crafting messages for development communication? Why do the principles discussed remain critical in conveying clear messages to our audience? And then lastly, what are the potential risk of using confusing language when creating development messages, such as those for preparedness, which is timely, very timely right now. So next is on my screen. Here are my references. Before I wrap it up, let me recap the following. So, again, Principle 4, use specific concrete language and avoid vague abstract wording. Just provide details and sensory or quantifiable references. Principle 5, avoid overuse of jargon or technical terms. You just have to know your audience and define terms clearly and prefer simple words. The last principle is be careful with idioms. Idiomatic phrases are handy but risky with diverse audiences or in formal context. So here's a key takeaway. So specific audience sensitive words prevent miscommunication. So that's it. Thank you for listening. Again, this is Marie Charlotte Arino from Section A, and have a good night.